This 2024 World Series and Game 1 betting picks edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MLB SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Here to get into the 2024 World Series betting preview. We'll also go over, or recap, I should say, not recap, but give our betting picks for Game 1 of the World Series happening on Friday night. But joining me here to help me break everything down for the World Series and Game 1 betting picks, got my guy here with me at Scott's studio, Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man? I know you're excited, but your Yankees are in the World Series.
Yeah, I'm excited, but I'm also a bit bored because we've had to wait for about a week and change for games to actually start, which I feel is a bit too long, but should be a fun series. Looking forward to it. Dodgers-Yankees. I'm sure Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred's going to be thrilled because I'm sure the ratings will be very good. But I still feel like the main issue that a lot of leagues run into, which is definitely the case in baseball, the Yankees 1-5, Dodgers 1-6, so a relatively long series for the Dodgers. It's a long layoff in between.
Yeah. I think that what I read from the scheduling standpoint was that if both of the championship series would have wrapped up by Saturday, they would have started on Tuesday. And then we would be talking about Game 3 right now because it would have been Tuesday, Wednesday. Well, actually, yeah, it would have been Game 3 on Friday then. But since there was a game over the weekend and then the Dodgers had to go to a Game 6 here to wrap up their series, so we had to wait till Friday. I thought tonight would have been the ideal time to start the series, like Game 1 today, Game 2 Friday, and then you have Game 3 on Sunday night back in New York at the Bronx there. But I guess they decided otherwise. But I mean, look, it should be a lot of fun here for this World Series. Obviously, you have two historic franchises, a lot of star power. We'll get into all that here in a second here. But yeah, so like I mentioned, we'll preview our World Series. We'll give you our breakdown of who we think is going to win the World Series, what it'll take for those teams to win it, and then we'll talk about the Game 1 pitching matchup between Garrett Cole. I believe it'll be Jack Flaherty going there for the LA Dodgers. But before we get into all that here, Scott, let me thank our listeners for this season, man. It's been an absolute fantastic season here on the MLB Gambling Podcast. I know we have a few pods left here, obviously, with the World Series going on right now. We'll be here in the offseason as well. But since me and Mal started this pod a few years ago, I mean, we've just grown it drastically, having Scott on board, Lonte, Dylan. We had Noah last season and for the past few seasons there as well. So it's been a lot of fun here. And we couldn't do it without our listeners. So I want to thank you guys. If you want us to do us a favor, if you can do us a favor, just head over to Spotify, give us a 5-star rating, and leave a comment there on Spotify. That would be greatly appreciated, because only you can prevent corporate gambling from taking over. And also, we're having a World Series contest. It kicks off obviously on Friday night. And here at the MLB Gambling Podcast, we're hosting a contest. It's free to enter. Just head to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/World Series to enter. And the winner does get a $150 SGPN gift card to the merch store there. So again, just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/World Series to enter. It's completely free to enter and should be a lot of fun for this World Series. All right, Scott, let's get into it here, man. We briefly touched on the Yankees winning their series in 5 against the Guardians. Made relatively easy work. It did take the Guardians some magic, I guess I should say, in Game 4 to tie it up in that bottom of the 9th and then walk it off in the Game 3. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Game 3 there for the Guardians to win at least one game in that series. And the Yankees got it done. I mean, a lot of people are talking about that it was an easier path, or it was an easy path for the Yankees to get there. But I typically don't buy into those type of narratives because you play who's in front of you. And fortunately, this season for the Yankees, the Astros got eliminated because they've been a thorn in the side of the Yankees for so many years, and the Astros got eliminated by the Tigers in that wild card round there. But give a lot of credit to the Yankees and especially Stan. I know we'll talk about it here in a minute about the Yankees' journey there, but we could talk. We'll start there. Let's start with the Yankees here, then we can get to the Dodgers side here. Then we'll kind of get into our predictions here, Scott. So I'll give you the floor. I mean, you're the Yankees fan. You followed this season or this team all season long, obviously in the postseason here as well. I think the one bright surprise really for Yankees fans was the play of Stanton in the championship series there, because I think this was kind of what they were hoping for in the past years where he just wasn't really able to step up. But when it mattered the most here, and provided that support to Soto and Judge, I think that's just a huge, pleasant surprise for Yankee fans.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, Stan has a history of performing in the playoffs, though, so he has been known as a big game player. So I can't say it's that shocking that he has picked it up again. The main, I'd say, piece to me that I feel like I couldn't have accounted for, which has been a huge, say, catalyst to the offense, is Gleyber Torres, because he got switched pretty late in the season to the leadoff spot. And as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Torres, but I got to give it to him. He's been very good in the leadoff spot. It felt like he was kind of slumping. They moved the lineup around. They tried Volpe, a batting leadoff, which was effective at times, but then he had a slump and they had to kind of reinvent the lineup. But Torres, who's not the fastest guy in the world, not the slowest either, but you're not exactly using him for speed, just became a very good contact hitter, or at least he has been doing that for the last month or two. And it just seems like that has definitely helped the offense get going, because Torres and Soto have been great to lead off games in particular. They've applied a lot of pressure in the first inning to opposing pitchers, and it just seems like that has gotten the, I'd say, offense going, because it forces you to pitch to Judge and Stan, etc., with guys on base. So I feel like even though Stan has been, of course, the championship series MVP, rightfully so, you could argue it should have been Soto, I can't overstate how important I'd say Torres has been to this lineup, especially in the leadoff spot. So I'll start there. Just props to Torres and for the Yankees offense for getting it going after the team struggled for about a month. And it seemed like they were going to division, but luckily for them, Baltimore was sucking at the same time. But they've picked it up again. Offensively, they've been good. The bullpen's been great. But Gleyber's been very good, and I got to give him props for it.
Yeah, I think that's really a key for teams that want to find success in the postseason and eventually try to win that World Series title, is having guys in the top of the lineup there, especially leading off, to be contact hitters, guys that can get on base, and then letting your power guys behind those guys at 2, 3, 4, even further down 5, just bring those guys in, because there was like a shift where you're starting to see these power guys like Otani's a different breed, but just like power hitters like batting leadoff. And I understand that you're trying to get the most at bat you can for those guys, but I've talked to a lot of people, and I think they're agreement with both you and I that you kind of want those top of the lineup guys to be those contact hitters, guys that can get on base, be guys that can steal bases, and then let your power guys bring those guys in and be those runs batted in machines there. And I think that's what worked really well, like you mentioned, for the Yankees with Gleyber Torres. I know how great Juan Soto has been. He's been clutch hitting. You mentioned Stanton there as well. But I think that's been fantastic for this Yankees team. And hopefully, if they want a chance, I think that's or they have a chance, but according to the betting odds here, that he's gonna have to continue doing that here and for this Yankees team. So I think it's been a bright spot here. What have your thoughts been about the pitching here? I know Garrett Cole, I think, had just one rough start there, but there was kind of question marks after Garrett Cole for this pitching rotation. But I think what has been great has been the bullpen, not only for the Yankees, but also for the Dodgers as well.
Yeah, I feel like Cole, for the most part, has been underwhelming. He had the great start to close it out against Kansas City in that road game. Game 1 against Kansas City, he really wasn't that good. They got the job done anyway, but I didn't think he was anything special. And then for the starting mate against Cleveland, I thought that he struggled. I mean, he got by for the first couple innings, and eventually he did enough to get the Yankees, I'd say, within striking distance to win the game. But he really struggled for a lot of that outing. So I didn't think Cole was amazing for 2 of the 3 starts in the postseason, but they're 3-0 when he pitches. So it counts for something. But I do want to point out that the Yankees have been successful despite Cole not having his best stuff in 2 of those 3 outings. I thought Rodon's been great. He was very good to start that first game against Kansas City, or I should say game 2 was his first start with the Yankees in the postseason, and then he fell apart. And since then, he's been really good. So I got to give props to Rodon, has been effective, and he has definitely, I'd say, responded to criticism well, because after that first bad start, you kind of thought, here we go again. And it's been anything but. He's been good. So props to him. Schmidt's been fine. I don't think he's been amazing, but whatever. It is what it is. And I thought Heel was fine in the one outing. It was his first postseason appearance. He hadn't pitched in like 17 days. So he wasn't flawless. I thought he was fine for what he did, but for the most part, the Yankees have actually been getting the series done pretty quickly. I mean, they dropped one game in both series, so they haven't really had to burn a lot of the back-end starter guys. And it just feels like that Rodon and Cole have been good enough to get the job done. And if this series goes long, the Yankees might have problems because, once again, you've been relying on two guys to basically carry your entire rotation. But they've been putting away teams quickly. And as a result, I feel like there is a bit of uncertainty with the back end of that rotation. But at the same point, I'm not going to really criticize the Yankees for it because they've been able to get the job done so quickly. It has not been a concern yet.
Yeah, and I think that I think this is more important, maybe even for the Dodgers part of it, because they've dealt with a lot of injuries in their rotation. Obviously, not having Tyler Glass out, Ohtani not pitching this season for them as well. That Walker Buehler stepped up at the right time for them. But I think that the key, I think, also for the Yankees will be, can they get length out of these starters and not have to put that pressure on the back end of the bullpen, like you mentioned. That if you're able to get 6 innings out of Garrett Cole when he does make his starts, I think that's only to the advantage of the Yankees here. So, yeah, I mean, look, they've done their part. Obviously, they're here for a reason. Are the New York Yankees? So, kudos to them, and it's going to be a fun World Series. Let's shift over here to the Dodgers side of things. I think there was a lot of. I think you and I did the preview when we started the season, or started the postseason, that we weren't sold on the pitching. And rightfully so, right? Because they, again, number one, Walker Buehler was in terrible form coming into the postseason. Tyler Glasnow had been shut down for the rest of the year. So those were two big arms that lose. Flaherty, I think now, are we looking at it in hindsight, that was a huge pickup for them. But even he had one bad start in there. I believe it was against the Brewers, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, against
two bad starts.
Yeah, two bad starts. One was the Padres
Game 5
and the Mets. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think this has been by far Dave Roberts' best job as a manager in the postseason, and the way that he's been able to utilize the bullpen and kind of really guide them here into the World Series. I know a lot of the talk has been about the batting side of things for the LA Dodgers and how well they've been able to hit home runs and produce hits and bring in those batters as well. But when you talk about this rotation, or at least the pitching side of things for the Dodgers, what's kind of your gauge there going into the World Series for this team?
So I don't want to sound like a hater because I'm not a big Dave Roberts guy, but
Yeah.
I feel like if I was comparing who's done the better job between Boone and Roberts up to this, I would go Boone personally if I choose between the two of them. I think Roberts has been fine. He hasn't really costed his team any games. You could argue that the bullpen game, I do just want to say Roberts getting a ton of credit. I guess my counterpoint to go against it is that the offense has been really, really good, to be fair. I mean, you're looking at the Padres. They didn't score a run for the final 24 innings of the series. So, yes, the bullpen game was very solid, but they did end up winning, once again, the last two games 10-0 by a combined score. But in the Mets series, they scored 6+ runs in 5 of the 6 games.
Yeah.
Like, you better win the series, no matter who's managing your team. So I think Roberts has done a fine job. I'm not trying to roast him. But when your offense has been that productive, scoring 6+ runs in 5 of the 6 games in that Mets series, the pitching kind of becomes secondary because you build yourself a ton of leeway based on how much actual, I'd say, how much offense you're generating. And it felt like everybody was hitting at the right time. Even Pa has had a 2 home run game in there for the Dodgers. Muncy had a big on-base streak in that series. Ohtani was great. Betts was great. Kike was very effective. Edman won series. I just mentioned about half the lineup. So when you have that many guys contributing and you can generate that many, I'd say, threats within your 9-person lineup, game that was once again in that NLCS CS, whether the Mets won or lost, and was decided by 4+ runs. There really was not much leverage or high leverage situations to really worry about. And I do think that could be an issue for the Dodgers moving forward. The Yankees were the opposite. They won in 5, but a lot of their games were close.
Yeah.
3. They blew 1 and they won the next 2. All those games came down to the wire. But the Dodgers did have to face off or deal with elimination for the last 2 games against the Padres series. But the Padres didn't show up. Final 24 innings. So I do wonder about the Dodgers and Roberts. Yes, he has been fine in this postseason. You score that many runs, and you have that going to make a mental mistake when the game's very competitive.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I think that when we saw the signing of Ohtani here to the Dodgers, like we knew when you had Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman at that top of the lineup, like we knew that they were going to score runs. But at the same time, a lot of us, when we look at the postseason, it comes down to, okay, how good is your pitching? And I think at least for maybe this season and especially last season where the Rangers were just putting up 5 runs within a blink of an eye, that's really what led to their success. But they still had formidable pitchers that could, go out there and give them solid innings. Where for the Dodgers, it's been inconsistent. I think Walker Buehler has been fantastic in the postseason. Let's see if he's able to carry that into this World Series for the Dodgers, because they're going to need it. Like we mentioned, Jack Flaherty had 2 bad starts in there. And then we talked about all the injuries that the rotation had at the beginning of the postseason there. So I think this is now where Dave Roberts is going to have to earn his money now, going up against his Yankees lineup as well, who, again, when you talk about at that top of the lineup, we just mentioned Torres has been great. Obviously, Aaron Judge, MVP, Stanton in the postseason, fantastic. Juan Soto. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun just kind of watching, number one, how these pitchers for both teams navigate at that top of the lineup against their respective teams here. Anything else you want to mention for the Dodgers before we actually get into the predictions here?
Yeah, it's mostly just about the lineup again. I just said a second ago, you can buy yourself a ton of leeway with the pitching staff if the offense is going to keep hitting like this.
Yeah.
I mean, 6+ runs in each of the last 4 games of the series against the Mets. That's very impressive. So, yeah, I feel like once again, the Yankees have to try to find a way to slow down the Dodgers offense. It's easier said than done. We'll see what happens. But if the Yankees do pull it off and they are able to slow down this lineup, I do still have questions about the Dodgers pitching staff, because I feel like a lot of those questions maybe have been somewhat answered, but not really, because they were winning a bunch of games in blowout fashion against the Mets. There weren't many high leverage spots. Do we agree on that? It was kind of a weird series where the Yankees had more missions in a shorter series because they won in 5. The Dodgers, and it felt like every game was over by the 4th inning.
Yeah, and also the fact, it's also the fact the Mets offense, like as great as it was against the Brewers and then against the who do they play in the divisional run? The Phillies, yeah. It just feel like that lust kind of wore off for them because they were on such a tear in the final month of the regular season to make it into the postseason and carrying that momentum into the wild card round and then into the divisional round, that it kind of fell off here. And like we mentioned, like with this Dodgers team, we mentioned that if the bottom of the lineup was going to be able to step up for this Dodgers team, like it was going to be trouble for whoever they faced off. And maybe some of those, because how good the offense could be, would cover up for how bad or lack thereof the pitching that the Dodgers had. And I think that was really the case in that series against the Mets in that championship series there. So I think the question now becomes, is them scoring 5-6 runs at a time going to be sustainable in the World Series, or are the Yankees going to be able to combat that? And I think that's just what's I feel like is going to determine the World Series here. But before we actually do get into our official predictions here and then getting to game 1 here, Scott, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Look, their menu has become one of the best. They have all the sports that are going on right now between the NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, and much more. Boostober is upon us, which means you're getting a spooky amount of profit boost and much more. And with the NBA tipping off this week, every NBA Pick'em entry from October 19th through October 27th will be boosted. And you can now use specials and boost on all flex entries. So sign up with promo code MLB SGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you guys use our promo code MLB SGPN. All right, Scott, let's get into our official predictions here for the World Series. I'll let you lead it off. How confident are you in your team that they will be hoisting the trophy at the end of the World Series?
So first of all, a reminder that the series is 2-3-2. So the Yankees will be
Yes.
getting 3 games at home in the middle of the series. So in theory, if the Yankees end up winning one of the first 2 games, they win the series in 5 if they win every home game. Just keep that in mind.
Right.
Now, you're asking how confident I am. I'm not, because I think the Dodgers are a better team. So I am not confident in my team, but I'm happy we're here. I mean, I feel like it's a
I'm just happy to be here.
I feel like it's a pretty fair statement to make
Sure.
that the National League was much better than the American League. I'm not going to try to pretend that I'm viewing the American League as some gauntlet and the Yankees were able to beat a couple of really good teams. I didn't think much of Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City's home numbers offensively were much better than the road. They fell apart down the stretch. They got through because the Orioles forgot how to hit. So the Yankees got the job done there in 4 in a series they were pretty decent favorites to win. Face off against either the Guardians or the Tigers, who I'm sure nobody was afraid of out of those 2 teams. Cleveland, I recognize how talented they were because the bullpen was great, but the offense we know has been an issue for that team for years. The Yankees 1-5. So they beat 2 AL Central teams. I'm happy they won, but I have to at least point out that I think the Dodgers beating San Diego and the Mets, I view as being more impressive. So I think the Dodgers had a tougher path if I had to unbiasedly grade the path of both teams. The Yankees have been solid, don't get me wrong, but I do think the Dodgers, with the depth of that lineup, are just a lot to handle. And the Yankees, yes, they got by because Torres was solid. Soto had a great series. Judge improved. He had a couple home runs. He had the one against Clase, which was pretty big. But for the most part, you kind of wanted a bit more. And Stan was unbelievable. But you go to the bottom of that lineup, Wells was basically a 0. He had 1 home run in the game, but that was basically it. Jazz has been benchable. He's been terrible. Injuries going down the line. I know Volpe's been fine, but it just feels like the Dodgers from top to bottom are a deeper lineup. And I am concerned that if Judge, Soto, or Stan, maybe 2 of those 3 don't really show up in the series, can the Yankees get by? I don't think so. I think they needed at least 2 of those 3 guys to basically carry the entire offense. And for the Dodgers, even if Ohtani or Betts are off, I think that Muncy can step up. I think that if you want to make an argument for Teoscar, who has actually been pretty quiet so far, he can step up. We saw Edman win the NLCS MVP. Will Smith's got power. They just have so many options in the lineup where if their star players are contributing, they can still find ways to get by. And the Yankees really haven't had to do that because Stan's been so good. My concern is if Stan and maybe Judge or so are not in tip-top form, do I think the other guys will step up? I'm not so sure about that. I feel better about the Dodger supporting cast than the Yankee supporting cast. And that's why I'm personally benedicting on my team. Shout out to Kobe. I'm going to go with the Dodgers in 6 if I had to go for a prediction. I think it's going to be a fun series. I think there'll be some competitive games. But the Dodgers, I just think, are built a little bit better. And I do think that the lineup differential, especially at the bottom, will play a massive factor in this series. I'm going Dodgers in 6.
Yeah, and I think that was my whole thing coming into this postseason was, will the bottom of the lineup of either the Dodgers or the Yankees be able to step up and provide that support to the top guys? And the answer, at least for the Dodgers thus far, has been yes. Will that be able to continue into the World Series year? I think so, because PK has been a proven postseason player. He has that experience. Tommy Edman, like you mentioned, was the MVP in that championship series, which was absolutely huge for the the Dodgers, and we haven't mentioned Teoscar Hernandez's name. Like, he's another guy that could really step up for this Dodgers lineup as well, outside of the top three guys there. So I agree with you that I 100% agree that the Dodgers lineup is a lot deeper than of the Yankees. And again, if you're missing one or two guys of those three guys that you mentioned, and they're not able to have a big series, that this could be, I don't want to say relatively easy for the Dodgers, but it definitely obviously favors them, and maybe that makes them a bigger favorite in the series if those guys aren't able to step up in the Yankees lineup. So the one concern I do, and I do like the Dodgers in the series as well. I'm right there with you. It's either Dodgers in 5 or 6 for me. I'll give it Dodgers in 6. Hopefully we do get some length in the series. But I think the key really will be for the Yankees that if they're not able to win game 1, I think that's going to be big, big trouble for this Yankees team. But because number one, you have obviously Garrett Cole starting on the road here. And obviously he's your best pitcher. You paid him, the money to come out and be your frontline starter and be the ace here. But again, it's a very, very tall order just kind of going through this lineup for any pitcher. So I think that the bullpen will be, again, good enough, and I think they can be great again like they were for the LA Dodgers. It's just makes me a little bit nervous that, hey, if Yamamoto comes in and has another bad start, and if Jack Flaherty has a bad start in game 1, that could give the Yankees an advantage there in this World Series here. But it just feels like that the Dodgers right now with Ohtani, with Freeman, with Betts, I mean, all the names that we just mentioned, that it'll just be too much for this pitching staff to
Freeman
handle.
because he's been in and out of the lineup, but
yeah,
Freeman's
he's dealing.
another guy
I
you
think,
can't mention. So
yeah, and he's dealing with that ankle injury as well. I mean, you could clearly tell that he's really gimpy out there for this Dodgers team. But as far as when it comes to hitting the baseball, like we know Freeman is up there as one of the best when it comes to at least making contact and hitting for average. So I say all that. Yeah, I like the Dodgers here in 6 as well. MVP, who do you like?
So I'm not going to go with Ohtani, even though that's a pretty safe option. So I'm not going to bother. It's tricky because the Yankees do have a couple of lefty options. So I am wondering if Muncy will get lifted. I thought Muncy had a good price. I saw 16-1 the other day when I mentioned on the Mothership show. We saw him have a big on base streak against the Mets, a couple home runs as well. Think he matches up well against this team. And you also have to factor in the short porch and right. If the Yankees are going to be using Cole and Rodon in games 1 and 2 on the road, or I should say in Los Angeles, then you might get some righties with the short porch in right field, which is pretty solid for lefty hitters. So my sleeper pick, which I think has some value, give me Max Muncy.
Yeah, I like that. I think that, like you mentioned, right, Muncy was also stepped up in a big way for this Dodgers team. I think the one name that we really haven't discussed here, and I know is a big time player as well, because he had a lot of success in helping the Red Sox win the World Series titles, I should say, was Mookie Betts. And I think that he's kind of overshadowed just because Ohtani is at that top of the lineup. But he's a guy that, again, number one, defensively is fantastic. Guy that can hit for power. He can get on base. He can steal bases. He can score runs. And I think he kind of gets forgotten about because he's sandwiched there in between between Ohtani and Freddie Freeman there. So I'll go with Mookie Betts to be my MVP here. I think that, again, number one, he just can affect the game in so many different ways for this Dodgers team. And he's kind of been a little bit underwhelming in the first couple series here, but I think this could be a huge spot for him because he has that World Series experience. Number one with the Red Sox. And I believe he was on this roster as well when they won it in 2020. I know that was a COVID year with, fans not being there or whatever the case might be. But I'm a huge fan of Mookie. I love his game. So I think I'm going to go with Mookie here to win the MVP. Before we get into game 1 of the World Series here and give our picks for the game there, let me tell everyone about our friends over at BetUS. We're brought to you by BetUS. BetUS is the best in the business. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years to easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. US players are always welcome. BetUS is live with Trick or Treat on Horror Street. From now until Halloween, BetUS will be offering daily promotions and a raffle entry to win a sports or a casino prize pack that they will give away on October 31st. You can enter multiple times. For every $200 you deposit, you get one entry. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus using promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered bet sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money line, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop. And also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Plus, Rhythm's NBA models are now live. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, Scott, let's get into game 1 of the World Series starting on Friday night in LA. We have Garrett Cole, who will be on the mound here for game 1 for the New York Yankees, and it will be Jack Flaherty getting the start here for the LA Dodgers. Looking at the lines right now, seeing some adjustment here. Right now on DraftKings, you see the Dodgers as a -125 home favorite, +105 on the money line for the visiting team, the New York Yankees. Total is set at 8.5 in this game here, Scott. What are you thinking about game 1 here?
Yeah, I'll go with the Yankees at plus money. Even though I did pick the Dodgers to win the series, I don't trust Flaherty at all. He had one great start against the Mets. I believe that was game 1 of that series. Mets are off of I'd say an emotional series win against the Phillies. They had the grand slam by Lindor. They had like 1 day off and then had to fly to LA. It wasn't exactly a great spot for the Mets, and already pitched very well. Besides that, he's been horrible, and his entire playoff career has been very underwhelming. There's not really, I'd say, a ton of positive results to call back to when you look at his actual playoff career. And Flaherty's not been good against the Yankees. Against the Yankees in his career, the Yankees batters have a 304 batting average and a 426 on base percentage. So the Yankees have actually done quite well against Flaherty. Rizzo's got 3 home runs. I know the power might not be there with the injury that he has, but he has been effective so far in the series. Forgot to mention him before, where he's been great so far in the postseason since being activated. I just am a bit concerned Flaherty's overall playoff, I'd say, history. And he had one really good outing. It was the last home start he made in the postseason. We saw him get shelled by the Mets. That was in a Citi Field. But I still don't trust him. And I think Cole's the better pitcher. So if you want to give me the better pitcher at plus money, I'm going to take it. I think it's going to be a close series. I still have Dodgers in 6, but it's mostly for the marathon angle, not the sprint. If the Yankees want to win this series, then they need to win game 1 with Cole pitching. I think you have to get the Flaherty. I'm not sold on Flaherty in general, and I don't want to lay 125. So I'll go with Cole plus 105.
Yeah, I think for the Yankees, it's gonna, or at least for Jack Flaherty, I should say that he's gonna have to settle in within those first couple innings because it could go south very, very quick if he's not able to, really get his command and locate his pitches. And let's not forget Garrett Cole. He's been in the World Series. He's been in these moments in these big time pitching matchups. Obviously, when he not only in the postseason run with the Yankees, but also when he was with the Astros, right? When they acquired him to be that frontline guy. I know it was a very long time ago, but he still has that World Series experience.
He was still warming up, right?
Yeah, he's still warming up for that series against the Washington Nationals, but which again, I think that's really what cost the Astros to win that World Series, not utilizing him. But I'm gonna go with the more experienced guy. I think that I like the Yankees in this game. I like them in the first 5 innings. If you want to just back Garrett Cole, take the bullpens out of it, I think that the Yankees bat within those first couple of innings will be able to get to Jack Flaherty. And after that, if you're able to have Garrett Cole really settle in and pitch with the lead, I think that only obviously bodes well for the Yankees. So yeah, I'll go Yankees game 1 here as well. First 5 innings, money line game 1 for the Yankees. If we like the Dodgers in the series, in the series here, Scott, Yankees to win game 1 and Dodgers for the series is sitting at plus 450.
Yeah, I mean, that's the angle that I like a lot for the series.
Yeah.
I hope Cole shows up. I mean, in the World Series, I made a joke before that he was warming up in game 7. He was pretty good in the World Series, right? Wasn't he pitching pretty well in that series?
He was. And he was, I think he started game 1 I want to say it was either game 4 or 5, and then he came out and said that he was ready to go in game 7 as well. But for whatever reason, AJ Hinch just didn't utilize him when he was with the Astros there. So, but again, like I mentioned, he has had postseason experience. And I think that he should go along well here in this game. You got anything on the total 8.5?
I actually am going to lean to the under in this
Okay.
one. I feel like with the long layoff, I don't want to blindly back an over. I get the argument is
Yeah.
Flaherty has been underwhelming in his playoff career. Yankees could get to him. I also wonder what his leash is going to be for this game. We'll see what happens. But I think people are going to blindly take the over just based on how these offenses have been performing, especially the Dodgers over the last couple of games against the Mets. That was about a week ago. I feel like anytime you have the hot bats, the last thing you want is a ton of inactivity. And
Yeah.
both teams have been sitting around doing nothing for about a week.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird spot where I don't want to say I'm fading the hot offenses because I don't trust them to do anything, but I feel like if there's one spot where the total might be a little bit inflated, I think it might be this game because they're basing it off of what happened about a week or two ago. And when you're sitting around waiting for the World Series to start, and now you finally get going, you also have some nerves in there. A couple guys haven't been to the World Series. Most of the Yankees roster hasn't been to the World Series. So I am concerned
Yeah.
about nerves there for a lot of guys. Judge never been there before. I know Jazz for a fact has never been there before. Stan's never been there before, for example.
I think
Soto's one of the only
Soto and
guys that
Rizzo,
has
right?
been there. Yeah, you have
Soto and
Soto and
Rizzo.
Rizzo, and
Yeah.
that feels like it's basically it. So I am a bit worried about nerves for the Yankees batters. The Dodgers, I think, are in the kind of a similar boat. They did win it a couple of years ago in the
Yeah.
bubble, but I think 8.5 might be a bit high. I think people will go with the over. I'll go contrarian based on the layoff spot. I'll go with the under.
That's a great point that you bring about the layoff spot. I think you compare that to just like recently, I think you can compare that to like the Minnesota Vikings and NFL, where they got off to a 5-0 start. The bye week came probably at the wrong time for them because they were rolling in the first 5 weeks there, and then they had an opportunity to win in week 7. But yeah, it's really that anytime you have a hot team or a hot offense, that the last thing you really want is to have a extended layoff. Like if we were starting maybe a couple days ago for the World Series and those series had wrapped up by Saturday and we're starting Tuesday, okay, I think we can make a case for the over. But I think that again, when we talk about game 1 of the World Series, I think like you mentioned, with nerves being there and just the moment and the fans and the situation, I think that it might be a little bit much. I don't see for both sides here. So I like the first 5 under in this game. Couldn't talk you off the full game over, the full game under, like you mentioned there, Scott, under 8.5. But I'm really zoning in on the first 5s in this game here for Yankees Dodgers game 1. Anything else you like as far as player props for game 1? Or if you want to, let's do player props game 1, then I'll ask you if you have any series props that you like.
Yeah, so I'll start off with probably I'll go with Ohtani walk if I was going to mention one. He's been a
Okay.
walking machine so far. I mean, the Mets were also kind of pitching around him. You might once again want to read your house rules for your book to make sure intentional walks do count towards the actual walk category. I know some books can try to scheme it, but Otani's been walking a lot, so I do think that he's got some potential to get on base via walk. He's minus 125. He has recorded at least one walk in 6 straight games in 7 of the last 8. And pulling up his numbers against Cole in his career, I know his batting average isn't that great, but I just want to see if he's been walking against. Okay, so he's one walk, so not many, but I think based on the overall, I'd say, discipline that he has to the plate and kind of the just, I'd say, desire of other teams to not let him beat them, I
Yeah.
think that over half a walk makes sense. If you want to fade a Yankees bat, I'd probably fade Wells, who's been a mess for the entire postseason. You could argue that Jazz will be in there too, but now Wells is in the bottom of the lineup, so it might get fewer at bats. So I don't mind Wells under half a hit in that game. Yes, I know Flair's been pitching to contact. He's not exactly been that sharp, but Wells just can't catch up to a high fastball. It's killed him the entire postseason. He's made no adjustments, and I do think that he is worth fading in the spot.
I find it interesting that Jack Flaherty's outs recorded is at 14.5 at minus 155. I mean, this could be a game where the Yankees get to him early and that Dave Roberts really pulls the plug on him. I mean, say he gives up like a couple runs in the first couple innings there. He continues to give up base runners and walks. I could see a spot where he does get pulled before he finishes 5 innings there for the Dodgers. So I think that's one I'm tempted by, under 14.5 outs recorded. by Jack Flaherty. Cole, strikeouts at 4.5. I think that's even low for him. If we do expect, the layoff and the timing being thrown off for some of these batters, I think that's only to the advantage of the pitchers here. They could really rack up strikeouts that way. So Garrett Cole over 4.5 strikeouts is something I would definitely be betting in this game. I think that's pretty much it, at least for game one. uh Player props here. Before we get to best bets, any series long player props or props in general you like, Scott, for the World Series?
Yeah, so just looking at what I might be tempted by, I thought about the steals leader being
Mm-hmm.
Edman in this
Yeah.
one. Otani is the listed favorite. He has 0 so far in the postseason. He has not stolen a base. I know he got caught stealing against the Mets mid-series, but I do think the Yankees have a lot of pitchers that aren't good at holding runners on, and that has been an issue for them in years past. So they've been better as the season has gone on. Cleveland did have a couple games there where they stole bases, so I don't mind Edman. I believe he's leading the team right now with 3 singles
Okay.
hitter. So that also helps out a lot because you want to be on first if you're trying to steal, because that way you have a chance to potentially steal 2 bases in one trip. But I do think you're looking at Edman having some value to lead the series in steals. I think that was around plus 450, give or take. I think a Dodger will lead the series. If you want to go for bets at a bigger price, you can do that too. But Edman's been a solid steals guy in the postseason, so I'll go with him.
Yeah, Otani's plus 165, Edmund 4-1. And then it falls down to Mookie Betts for the Dodgers side, 12-1, Teoscar at 25-1, and then so on and so forth from there. As far as series long props, most hits market is pretty intriguing. Mookie's at plus 425, Shohei's at plus 450. Um, I wish Freeman wasn't dealing. I mean, that ankle injury may have gotten better with this long layoff, but his price at 13-1 for most hits, I think that's a little bit intriguing for me. I know he's a guy that can obviously, all throughout his career, has hit for average. Um, Guy that he can hit for power there as well. So 13-1 for Freddie Freeman. I don't hate that at all. Tommy Edmonds at 8-1. I think that he's going to be a really, really key factor in this series for the Dodgers. Um, his World Series odds are also at 25-1 for Tommy Edmonds. So if we think he's going to have a big series, if he's able to lead the World Series in stolen bases, get hits, maybe had some clutch hits or home runs, I think 25-1 on his MVP odds are worth there as well. I know I mentioned Mookie at 9-1, but I think that would probably be my second choice after Mookie Betts there. So we'll leave it at that for the World Series series long props there. All right, Scott, let's wrap it up here with best bets here. If you want to give a game one best bet or anything that you like for the series, just anything in general for the World Series.
Yeah, so for the best bet, I think I'll stay with one. I do like the under, but it might come back to the Yankees fan. Hopefully I don't jinx it, but I just got to take the Yankees in game one on the money line. I think plus 105 is too good of a deal. I'm not sold on Flaherty. I think Flaherty has a lot more, once again, misses than hits when it comes to the postseason performances. Yankees have gotten to him before, 426 on base percentage against him. So I do think that can, once again, result in some pretty decent contact for Yankees hitters. Do want to point out, though, that out of the guys that have faced Flaherty, Stanton and Judge are not one of them. So I do want to point that
Okay.
out. Soto's 1 for 9, but he has 6 walks. So he gets on base a lot against Flaherty, just something to keep in mind. But I think for this one, I'll go with the Yankees money line. I just feel like based on the price, it should be closer to minus 110 apiece. I prefer Cole over Flaherty. You could argue that these teams are pretty close to each other. I think the Dodgers are better. But I do think that it's a pretty good price there at plus 105. Give me Cole the shove again in the World Series at plus money.
Yep, couldn't talk you over that. Again, Cole been in the World Series, been making plenty of big starts throughout his career in the postseason. So anytime you get him at plus money, I think that is a pretty good bet. I think I'll go first 5 innings Yankees as my best bet. I think we're kind of in lockstep, or we're kind of having this sharing the same sentiments that the values on the Yankees here, and also Garrett Cole to just have a really good outing for this Yankees team. I think if he's able to lock in within those first 2 innings, I think that he can go give them a lot of length here, maybe get to 5 innings minimum. 6 would be fantastic for the Yankees. But I do think that this is a good opportunity for Garrett Cole to go out there and pitch well. I think we both just don't trust Jack Flaherty. I mean, we've seen over the past couple starts that he's made that he's gotten blown up. And I think there's an opportunity for this Yankees team to get to him early. So if they have a 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 type of lead at the end of 5, I'll take Yankees in the first 5 innings as my best bet in game 1. All right, that is going to wrap it up here for this World Series betting preview and game 1 picks for the Fall Classic. Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Not really. I hope I'm wrong. Go Yankees.
Yeah, should be a good one. Again, a lot of star power. We'll be here game by game for the World Series. So hopefully it's a great one. I know the MLB's front offices are salivating at this matchup. 2 historic franchises, all the star power, but it should be a great World Series to wrap up this regular season. So we'll be back maybe Saturday for game 2. We'll play it by ear, see what transpires, but we'll definitely be back for game 3. We'll see if we can do an episode for game 2. So a great reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the MLB Gambling Podcast YouTube channel. And also don't forget to enter the contest. It'll close before game 1 and first pitch. So again, just head to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/World Series. Get in there. It's free to enter. A winner gets a $150 SGPN gift card. So it should be a lot of fun in that series and in this World Series. So if you're watching this live, leave a comment and let us know your predictions in the comment section there, your winner and your MVP. We'd love to hear from you guys as well. And if you're listening on the audio version, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, do us a favor, come over to YouTube, leave us a comment on your predictions as well. All right, we'll be back for the game 2 or game 3. Again, like I mentioned, keep your eyes and ears open. Hopefully it's a great one. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and always remember to let it ride.